Hi, and welcome to this edition of the Insurance Experts. It's my pleasure to have on the line Martin Burlingame. He's a MGA in both the P&C and also the health insurance world. Thanks for joining us today, Martin.
Well, thank you very much for having me on this wonderful podcast here.
Well, I know we have a mutual interest in long-term care planning, but I thought we'd go a little bit in a different direction today. And I wanted to talk a little about your P&C business and your expertise there. So tell me a little bit about your background and how you started your agency and got into that.
So you're taking me off the tangent of long-term care and forcing me back into the P&C world.
Just for a few minutes.
Where my roots are. So I started as a captive agent with Farmers Insurance 16, 17 years ago. And then about 6 years ago, I went independent. And we have both a retail operation and an MGA operation, which is completely different than the wholesale world where you have this vertical kind of pyramid commission structure. The MGA world in the retail side is specialists on particular lines of business, very niche-y type people.
Interesting. And, I think that's the way the insurance market has evolved into more complex but custom solutions. So it's great to have specialists in different areas like what you're doing. So let's talk a little bit about the short-term renters market. And I know that you had talked to me a little bit about the policies offered there. Can you share with us, first of all, how did you kind of get exposure to that marketplace in the first place?
Sure. We got asked to do some short-term rentals, 4 or 5 years ago. We have a homeowners program specific to 40 of the states. We don't do the Eastern Seaboard. And over the course of time, people were starting to ask us, could we insure short-term renters that had claims or in more difficult areas to insure on the coast and brushy areas and so on. And so we built a bunch of custom short-term rental options onto our product. And then from there, we evolved into, or devolved, if you want to go that way, into offering some very niche, very small policies to handle the gap in insurance for short-term rentals between their deductible and the possible claims. Because a lot of these people live on razor-thin margins, and having a $2,000 claim could put them in the red for that year.
Interesting. So who's the typical client that would buy a short-term renter's policy?
Yeah, so the actual rental policy is done by anyone who has a short-term rental. This particular niche product is done by short-term renters, people who own a house or a condo or an apartment or arbitraging it. There's an entire world of arbitrage now. And they need to protect the assets of that house, condo, apartment in case the tenant causes damage. Conversely, the tenant is trying to buy insurance. And tenant, I mean, it's a short-term tenant. The tenant's looking for insurance to avoid security deposits. So, you're worried that they're going to cause $1,000 of damage. You have the insurance policy. They come in, they break a table, it's covered.
I gotcha. So it's kind of like almost like the Airbnb environment with people.
It is. And Airbnb offers coverage for the larger stuff, and they can do some of the smaller stuff. But your issue is you got to deal with the process of handling claims with a large company. These pay really quickly.
I see.
The checks get cut and handled. And if you own a short-term rental and there's $1,000 damage, the bed gets broken and it's a one-bedroom place, you need to replace the bed. Or the mattress gets stolen. I mean, we've had all kinds of weird claims.
Yeah, and I guess people probably assume that their normal homeowners insurance covers this type of issue, but tell us a little bit about how that is covered.
Sure. I mean, so the first thing is you need to disclose that you're a short-term rental because it changes the pricing point. There's a lot of variations in that world because some people are renting rooms out in their house, which changes their insurance policy. So quite often, insurance companies don't cover short-term rentals. There's an exclusion for running a business out of your house. Okay. For those that do it, they may have a limitation on the number of days or a limitation on how many days people can stay in there. There's just a lot of stuff. And my recommendation, like you probably all the time, is read what you bought. Read the insurance policy and see what it says in there. And if it says that short-term rental is excluded, you should probably make the assumption that it's excluded.
Right. And I think that's the beauty of working with specialists is they actually read the contracts and they're used to reading the contracts. So they know what's in there and what to look for.
Yeah, we're some of the few that read the contracts nowadays. And we're just as bad as it. I mean, when was the last time you bought a house and actually read the mortgage documents that they make you sign an initial 6,000 pages of documents? Nobody reads anything anymore.
Right. So I know that in the rental market, obviously, you have these issues with it being a business exclusion on the homeowner's policy. But tell us a little bit about how this actually adds to the client experience and value. You mentioned quick payments. Give me a situation where someone, let's say they're renting out their house with Airbnb and there's some damage. What value does the policy provide?
So let's say you're renting your house out. You're in Breckenridge, Colorado, because I'm in Colorado and I go to Breckenridge all the time. And you have a family of 4 come in, and somebody in the family hits the wall or runs into the wall with the skis. Not an uncommon thing, and pushes a hole in the drywall with the skis and causes some damage to the house. Okay, that's covered by your insurance normally, but there's a deductible, so you're probably not going to do it. You've got to get people in there to fix it. You're going to incur $500 to $1,000 of costs, and I know in some parts of the country it doesn't cost that much, but in the ski towns in the middle of winter, when everyone's trying to get their ski stuff done, it gets pretty expensive. Here, you just have this policy, and instead of chasing the person who's in the house, trying to get them to give you $250 to do it, you file a claim, and you get your $250, $500, and you do the repair work as quick as possible. And it's all about reducing the friction of renting it, right? Because, I mean, you have a very short season, and you're trying to maximize the rental. So if you take it out of commission for 5 days, you have a problem.
Right. Yeah. You can't have the hole in the wall for a week and rent it to somebody else. You have to get that.
A hole in the wall you probably could live with. But, I mean, if they break the dining room table, we had somebody steal the mattress. I know we're not sure why they stole the mattress out of the bed or what happened to the mattress that caused them to take the mattress. But I mean, that's kind of an essential item, you know, bed, a dining room table, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I kind of want to hear that story actually, but that's
so
for
would
another
we.
video.
But everyone clammed up pretty fast as to why the mattress disappeared out of the house. But I mean, the cleaning people came in, right? So they came in and they videotape everything. And the cleaning crew videos, they film over and they go, "Where's the mattress?"
Wow. So, I mean, the interesting world that we are in the insurance industry, sometimes it leads to these types of stories. But I really appreciate you joining us today. I know we're going to have some future opportunities to talk about long-term care planning and the home health care world. But thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks so much for having me on board.